guys like him, they just don't come into college basketball very, very often. I mean, he's a generational player. He's really, really good. And this number one pick thing, like, I don't know why people aren't talking about him more. I can't imagine anybody better.
Arkansas point guard Darius Acuff has been one of the most electric players in college basketball this season. The SEC Freshman and Player of the Year led the SEC in scoring with a jaw-dropping 23.5 points a night, paired with an SEC-leading 6.4 assists and a whopping 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. And Acuff only raised his game in conference play, upping his scoring to nearly 25 points a night on 61% true shooting. The 6'3" lead guard didn't just put up gaudy numbers. The efficiency, the decision-making, the consistency, the poise, and the leadership that he brings to an offense on a night-to-night basis is the cocktail that has scouts salivating. Acuff still has legitimate questions to answer on the defensive end at the next level, but his monster offensive season has presented the Frosh with a serious case to hear his name called in the top 5 come draft night. My name is Corey Tulaba. Welcome to No Ceiling Scouting Reports. The first thing you notice while watching Darius Acuff is just how skilled this dude is offensively. There's a maturity and intentionality to his game that you don't often see from freshmen. He plays quick but not hurried, always in control when the rock is in his hands. Whether he's operating in the half court or pushing pace in transition, Acuff has the rare ability for a young point guard to be in complete command of his pace. He can hit the throttle, utilizing his underrated first step burst when he wants to blow by his man, as he does here blowing by Kingston Flemings with a fully spaced floor, but he also plays with enough control and discipline to decelerate and counter help defenders. His ability to stay in control and avoid situations where he can get himself in trouble in crowded spaces is one of the reasons why he's limited his turnovers to such an impressive degree, despite his 32% usage during his freshman campaign. Acuff is equipped with arguably the most effective handle in the class. He doesn't necessarily bust out the Iverson-esque side-to-side throwback wiggle, but his handle's tight, creative, and deliberate, making sure every dribble has a purpose. He's always monitoring, probing, and processing in a way that reminds you of the way veteran guards navigate the game. And for a kid who garnered a significant amount of skepticism during the preseason for his ability to balance scoring and playmaking, the polish Acuff has shown as a lead creator is well ahead of schedule. One of the more surprising aspects of Acuff's freshman season was the lethality of his shooting. While known as more of a shot maker at the high school level, Acuff shot the cover off the ball from multiple levels in multiple shooting play types. He knocked down a blistering 44% of his threes on 9 attempts per 100 possessions, but what separates his shooting season from your typical collegiate shot maker is the degree of difficulty on those makes, as he isn't just shooting open threes off the catch. Acuff is completely comfortable creating his own shot off the bounce, both out of isolation or ball screens, knocking down 37.3% of his dribble jumpers, good for the 70th percentile per synergy. The kid has a deep bag of setups to create space, hesitations, snatchbacks, quick crossovers. He shoots a soft, high-arcing ball and is undeterred even when he sees a hand in his face. You saw the elite shot-making most clearly in Acuff's 49-point explosion against Alabama, where he knocked down every shot in the book, including a clutch triple with a hand in his eye with 15 seconds left to tie the game and send it to overtime. And while the off-the-bounce shot-making was a calling card for Acuff's scoring process at previous levels, the off-ball shooting he's had the chance to display in Calipari's system has shown what he could look like playing next to and off of other ball handlers at the next level. Acuff was an absolute flamethrower off the catch during his freshman campaign. We're talking NBA Jam levels of on fire here, shooting 50% on catch-and-shoot attempts. Yes, you heard that correctly. 50% on 120 attempts off the catch, placing him in the 98th percentile per synergy sports. If he has any daylight, you may as well start running back on the other end, as he shot a preposterous 61.9% on unguarded catch-and-shoot looks. Acuff has shown consistent footwork, quick shot prep, and a comfortability shooting off movement sets, a skill that Sixers star guard Tyrese Maxey got to develop under Coach Cal during his freshman campaign as well. Watch how crafty this movement shot is versus Houston. Acuff runs off a double stagger and sees Emmanuel Sharp try to cut over. Now watch Acuff's footwork as he notices Sharp's route and flares back towards the baseline to a spot that forces a much more difficult contest. What makes Acuff an intriguing lead guard candidate is his 3-level scoring approach. Acuff knocked down 43.3% from short mid-range and 36% from long mid-range per cbbshotcharts.com. And critically, just 9% and 32% of those shots were assisted, showing his elite ability to create offense for himself in the in-between. Watch Acuff operate patiently here, also displaying his ability to utilize his strength by putting his man in jail off the ball screen and patiently working his way into his spot. Again here, we see a little Jalen Brunson-esque craft as he gets cut off on the drive, pivots, and spins off his right shoulder into space to create an easy look at the paint logo. That diet of mid-range shots might not be the most efficient look in the modern analytics era, but it's a real weapon for a point guard, as being able to pull up from the elbow allows the guard to leverage their scoring to make plays for their teammate, as it forces the drop big to climb up and guard away from the rim, opening up a lane for the roll man when the low man is late to tag, and creates skip opportunities to the weak side when the low man gets stuck in the paint. Acuff draws two here and raises up to simulate the mid-range shot, opening up the roll. Uses his eyes to manipulate the help before throwing a dime to Brazil for an easy two, all set up due to the threat of his midi. Acuff uses the midi as a tool to manipulate the defense as much as to get a bucket. Think of the way Chris Paul made a living with that elbow pull-up, and you start to see the blueprint on why it's an important weapon in the arsenal. Now, Acuff does run into some trouble when he drifts too close to the three-point line on long twos, at times settling when he can't get into the teeth of the defense, a low-value shot he'd be better off avoiding. Acuff also has a tendency to fade and land off balance on his left leg in tightly contested situations, often missing short. Watch here against Alabama. Acuff does a good job snaking the screen, but pulls up in a bit of no man's land between the right elbow and free throw line, forcing up an inefficient shot that he front rims with enough time on the shot clock to try to get a better look, or even skip the ball to the weak side of the floor, which you see Billy Richmond signaling from the wing. You see the off-balance landing after the J, missing short on the lean back due to the solid contest. This is one of those shots that Acuff can sometimes settle for. Those are the shot selection, situational decisions that will sharpen as he gets older and more comfortable within an NBA system. Where Acuff's draft stock really takes off, though, is as a playmaker. He's finished his freshman campaign with a 32.2 assist percentage against just a 10% turnover percentage, along with the aforementioned 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. But the raw numbers don't even tell the full story. Acuff had 13 assists and 0 turnovers against South Carolina, 10 assists and 0 turnovers against Queens, 9 assists to 0 turnovers against Oklahoma, and 5 assists to 0 turnovers against Mizzou. That kind of decision-making consistency is what separates floor generals from scorers who could pass a little. Acuff is a genuine floor general, and perhaps his best micro skill is his lob passing, which is best in class. From the touch, timing, and ball placement to the creativity and degree of difficulty, it's all there. He puts it exactly where his teammates can catch it and the defender can't recover to it. He'll throw the lob off of dribble penetration or ball screens when help rotates over, or let it fly from the backcourt when Arkansas runs the floor in transition. But what makes Acuff so dangerous as a passer isn't just the highlight lobs, it's the way he manipulates the defense to create the pass. He uses his speed and herky-jerky pace to shift defenders and open up lanes, and even on simple kickouts one pass away, he's savvy enough to engage the gap defender, getting him to slightly commit before making the kick. Watch here against Alabama in overtime, Acuff attacks just enough to get the help to bite and then fires it to Wagner in the corner for 3. Against Texas A&M in semi-transition, Acuff calmly plants at the top of the key, engages Thomas's man, and gives Thomas a clean look as a simple ball fake does all the work. Acuff is also a genuinely comfortable live dribble passer in either direction with either hand. You see him here throw a lefty whip pass to the weak side that leads to a Billy Richmond attack. Then we see another live dribble left-hand skip to Malik versus Texas, and again here versus a live dribble underhand lob to Malik Ewan for the alley-oop after beating his man and drawing the big. But what makes the playmaking tick on a deeper level is that Acuff isn't just reacting to what the defense gives him, he's orchestrating it. Florida sends an aggressive hard hedge deep behind the three-point line here. Acuff makes eye contact with Billy Richmond and Wagner on the weak side to engage Condon, who's responsible for tagging the roll, and Haug, who should be rotating to the paint as the low man, but instead cheats out of the paint in case of a skip, opening up the paint for a laser to Brazil for the slam. On this possession, Acuff does a great job pushing the pace in semi-transition, forcing Oklahoma to get back. As Tay Davis cuts off his drive, he moves off the ball into a quick pitch and rejects the screen as Davis tries to cut him off middle. Acuff then plays into space, slows his pace, and utilizes a pound dribble to engage the big guarding the roll and the low man, opening up the skip to the weak side of the floor for an open Knox 3. Again here, versus Oklahoma, Acuff is going to put his command of his pace on display as he toys with the big playing cat and mouse. Acuff's calm, probing, utilizing change of speed and going high to low places the big in an unwinnable predicament. He ultimately hesitates to make a decision, allowing Acuff to utilize his floater to disguise a lob to Nick Pringle. And watch his ability to take advantage of the attention he draws off of his scoring gravity. Sebastian Williams-Adams never takes his eyes off Acuff, who is probing at the logo. He loses sight of Brazil as he cuts from the corner as he tries to tag Ewan on the roll. This opens up just enough space for Acuff to throw an absolute dime for an easy 2 at the rim. His constant rim pressure opens up drop-offs, and when Acuff maneuvers into the paint, defenses don't just have to worry about the finish, they have to account for everything else he can do from there. And that's a nightmare for opposing coaching staffs and a blessing for his teammates. As a finisher, Acuff is solid if unspectacular. He converted 58.1% overall at the rim on over 200 attempts per synergy on a heavily unassisted shot diet, but the percentages are buoyed somewhat by the 66.2% conversion rate at the rim in transition. In the half court, Acuff was inconsistent at the rim, finishing just 54.1% of his attempts. There are certainly some high-level moments. He has good body control in the air, can finish with both hands, and has a deep bag of counters when the defense rotates. Acuff utilizes scoop layups, extension finishes, spin moves in tight spaces, and has shown intriguing touch with tough touch shots off the glass. He's flashed the ability to back smaller defenders down in the mid-post and spin off them as he does here with Tyler Tanner. He can slither through tight crevices to split doubles, and he uses his floater game to counter rim protectors who try to prevent him from getting all the way to the cup. Acuff converted on 46.2% of his floaters on 65 attempts, displaying the ability to smoothly drop them using different setups and shot types. He stays balanced, floating in midair, uses same foot, same hand runners to disguise his release and throw off defenders' timing. He's got range out to the free throw line, but what makes the floater a real weapon is how it creates playmaking opportunities, where Acuff can fake getting to the float game, instead throwing a soft lob for an oop to his teammates. Whilst Acuff is mostly a below-the-rim finisher who uses finesse and touch shots, he isn't completely ground-bound, finishing with 7 dunks, all coming in transition. He's gone up for a couple poster attempts, and while he hasn't finished through that contact yet, the willingness to attack the rim with bad intentions is something you want to see from him athletically. Because one of the ways he'll increase his efficiency even more at the next level is leaning more into his physicality and strength to generate more free throw attempts. Where Acuff ran into some struggles at the rim in the half court is when he encounters length. He was prone, especially early in the season, to going around or fading away from defenders instead of using his strong frame to absorb and draw contact, which is why he finished with a free throw rate of 37%, which is more good than really good. If Acuff wants to be an elite NBA scorer, he's going to have to learn to mix finesse with more physicality in order to get to the line 6 or 7 plus times a game, which is the Jalen Brunson zone. And the tools are absolutely there for him to do it, and you could see it over the last 11 games of his freshman campaign at Arkansas. Acuff boosted that free throw rate to 51.6%, an elite mark and good for 10 attempts per game over that stretch, by aggressively hunting his defender's body and not only looking to draw contact, but use his strength to finish through it. In transition, Acuff is at his most dangerous. He pushes the pace relentlessly off dead balls, off rebounds, off anything he can get his hands on, and his eyes are always up, always scanning for the hit-ahead pass before the defense can set. Acuff finished 66.2% at the rim in transition, weaving in and around defenders with the smoothness and ability to shift gears like a Tesla. He loves to use a hang hesitation to blow by defenders who are on their heels. He'll also pull up from deep in transition to keep the defense honest. Acuff connected on 36.7% of those jumpers, and the threat of that shot keeps defenses from loading up to stop the drive, which opens everything else up for him. The one thing you'd love to see more of from Acuff is crashing the defensive glass to create more grab-and-go opportunities for himself. When he does grab a board, watch here against Alabama, he's nearly impossible to contain in the open floor. Still, he's so adept at coming to the ball for the outlet off a board that his lack of rebounding isn't as concerning as it might be for other guard prospects. On the defensive end is where the biggest questions live, and we have to be honest about it. Acuff's steal numbers are subpar for a player with his physical tools, and his off-ball instincts are inconsistent at best. But before we pile on, let's give some context. At 6'3" with a rumored 6'5" to 6'6" wingspan, Acuff isn't going to be your prototypical lockdown wing defender. The size limitations are real, and they will affect his positional versatility at the next level. The question isn't whether Acuff is going to guard forwards. He isn't. The question is whether he can be a functional, passable defender at the point of attack against NBA guards. And right now, the answer is certainly murky. On the ball, there are genuine flashes. Acuff is a good lateral mover who, when he's engaged, can use his length to push ball handlers sideline and funnel them into the help. He's willing to guard the length of the floor and make teams earn every inch getting into their half-court sets. He has solid timing using his length to generate blocks. The block numbers are nothing to write home about, but are decent for a guard his size. And when he does commit to fighting through screens, he has the length to get a solid rear view contest even when he's a step late. But here's the problem. Acuff too often plays flat at the point of attack. He doesn't get low and into the body of the ball handler. He hangs back, lets the offensive player build momentum, and by the time the driver has a head of steam, Acuff is on skates. You saw it clearly in isolation against Alabama's LeBaron Philon. Acuff does a decent job riding his hip initially, but he avoids any physical contact that would disrupt Philon's rhythm and path to the rim, and it results in an uncontested layup. A little bump in the right spot changes that possession entirely. He needs to learn that disrupting someone's line doesn't always show up in the box score. Sometimes it just means making the game harder on your man by being physically present. He also has a tendency to reach and gamble at the point of attack instead of staying disciplined and keeping his feet moving. Reaching against NBA guards at full speed is a quick ticket to the bench as a young player. He can also be prone to biting on pump fakes, which compounds the problem. Guys at the next level will have his tendencies scouted by November of his rookie year if he doesn't clean that up. Navigating screens is probably the most glaring on-ball issue right now. Acuff gets blasted by screens and doesn't always fight hard to get back into the play. When he does fight through, the length is there. He can recover and get a late contest, but the consistency and effort simply isn't there yet. Against Texas A&M with 3 minutes left, Jakari Lane walks into an open three. Fortunately a miss, because Acuff gets flattened by a screen in semi-transition and just doesn't claw back into the play the way you need to at the next level. And after he gets by a screen, he tends to take wide re-entry angles that give drivers a clean runway downhill before help can rotate, leading to the kinds of defensive lapses that compound and cost teams points in bunches. He'll need to start stepping up and over earlier so that he can avoid getting stuck and taking himself out of the play. Off the ball is where it gets even more inconsistent. Acuff has a habit of ball watching, eyes locked on the rock, losing track of his man in the process. He'll overcommit to helping on strong side actions, and at the NBA level, those guys don't miss. Now here's the thing. None of this is necessarily a death sentence. Darius Acuff is not a finished defensive product. Smaller guards like Jalen Brunson and Darius Garland were never going to be stoppers, but still impact their teams in a positive way because of how strong their offensive profiles are. The standard for Acuff on defense isn't Drew Holiday. It's, can he be disciplined enough, physical enough, and consistent enough in his effort to not be a liability at the point of attack in the NBA? Right now, we can't answer that question definitively, as the effort and penchant to avoid defensive physicality to stay out of foul trouble has overwhelmed the tape. But the physical tools are there. The length is there, the lateral mobility is there, and perhaps more importantly, there are flashes where you see him lock in, keep his hands active, and make life harder on the ball handler. He just needs to find that version of himself on a possession-to-possession basis rather than in isolated bursts. The coaching staff that drafts Acuff is going to have to commit to making defense a cultural expectation for him early, because the habits he's built while shouldering a heavy offensive burden in college may be tough to unlearn. But there is a world on that end that ends up as a functional point of attack defender who becomes passable with an offensive impact that makes the defensive deficiencies worth the squeeze. The bottom line on Darius Acuff, you're looking at one of the most polished and high-field guards in this draft, a dynamic 3-level scorer with special playmaking. Acuff is one of just 9 high-major freshmen since 2008 to finish his freshman campaign with an OBPM greater than 8.5, a list that includes Anthony Davis, Kevin Love, Cooper Flagg, Trae Young, Zion Williamson, Michael Beasley, and fellow 2026 prospects AJ DeBonza and Cam Boozer. Guys with Acuff's offensive production have historically played in the league for a decade plus. Acuff is still just scratching the surface of what he can become on both ends of the floor, and if the defensive habits clean up and he picks up some of the low-hanging fruit offensively, then you're looking at a kid who has legitimate all-star potential.